4 o'clock, the way it gets in northern Pennsylvania in January, and the heater in the Civic was doing its inconsistent best, and I thought about my grandmother's handwriting versus my own, neat versus loose, careful versus hurrying, and I thought about my father's hand moving a pen across paper, forging the curve of a lowercase g. I did not sleep that night. I made a list instead. I called the 529 plan administrator the next morning before work. I identified myself as the account beneficiary, gave my social security number, and asked for a complete transaction history going back to the account's opening. The representative put me on hold for 4 minutes and then came back and said she could mail the documentation or I could request it through their secure portal, and I said both, please. The packet arrived 6 days later. I read every page twice before I called anyone. There were 6 separate withdrawals totaling $47,200. They spanned 18 months. The authorization forms on file had my name signed on every one. The address listed for correspondence had been changed, partway through, to a P.O. box in a town 20 minutes from Wellsboro that I had never lived in or used. My mother was listed as the account contact. My mother, who did bookkeeping for small businesses in town and therefore knew exactly how to move numbers from one column to another. I went back to Clara Finch. I brought the packet. I spread it across her desk and we looked at it together, and she said quietly, "This is wire fraud." She was right, though she said it the way civilians say legal terms, correctly but gently, as if the word itself might be too much. It was not too much, it was clarifying. Wire fraud under 18 U.S.C. Sagar 1343 requires a scheme to defraud, use of wire communications, in this case the electronic transfer authorizations and the online account access, and the intent to obtain money or property by false pretenses. Every element was here. The forged signatures made it clean. The address change made it calculated. The fact that my mother's name was on the account as a secondary contact, that had been set up years ago when I was a minor, which is standard, but which they had never relinquished as I aged into adulthood, and the account became solely mine, gave her access that she had used like a key left under the mat. I found an attorney through the County Bar Association referral line. Her name was Margaret Osei. She worked out of a small office in Wellsboro above a pharmacy, and she had a quality I have come to associate with good attorneys. She let me finish every sentence before she responded. I brought the packet. I brought Clara's printed summary. I brought 3 years of financial aid records that showed exactly how much less I had received because my family's reported assets, including a 529 that now appeared nearly empty, had affected the need analysis. Margaret looked at everything. She asked me twice whether I was certain I had not signed those documents. I told her I was certain. She said, "Good. Just that." The criminal referral went to the district attorney's office, which forwarded the wire fraud component to the FBI field office in Williamsport because the account transfers cross state lines. The plan administrator was based in Ohio. This is the part of the story where it becomes something I did not fully anticipate, which is to say, it became larger and faster than I had built myself to expect. The FBI does not move slowly when the evidence is clean, and this evidence was clean. What I did not know until the investigators began their work was that the $47,000 had not simply been spent on Kelsey's car and Kelsey's wedding. Some of it had, yes, I will come back to that. But my mother had also been running what I can only describe as a modest private redistribution operation that extended beyond my 529. She had been skimming from one of the businesses she did bookkeeping for, a small HVAC company in Blossburg, and using those funds alongside mine to maintain what she apparently considered a necessary lifestyle differential between her 2 daughters. The HVAC company owner had suspected something for over a year, but had not been able to locate it. The investigators found it in 4 days. My father had known about my 529. The investigators determined this through phone records and through a text message, which he had sent to my mother 18 months before the final withdrawal, that said simply, "Just use Dee's account for the rest. She won't know until it's gone." He had not touched the account himself. He had not signed anything.